insults and such and read aloud, but I think I've made my point. If you'd like a supercut of some of my best insults, well, I might, but I'm gonna make you all work for it. I won't do this often, but let's set a like goal for this. Get me 7 likes on this video, and I'll get to it whenever I find the time. Well, I decided I'd be generous and make this anyhow. You guys are cool enough and like this idea enough to want it, so here we go with the supercut of my best insults and roasts. I got a real treat for you all, since I have roughly 3 years of me being the savage asshole I am today. Well, at least the screenshots I could find in my gallery and by searching my name on Google. I'll give a brief bit of context before each one, but I'll try to keep myself from going too deep. So the earliest screenshot in my gallery I thought was spicy enough to share without needing a shitload of context was one from the Dark Ages, also known as 2017 on the pedophile paradise known as Amino, back when I was willing to roleplay in almost any sense. I was a very different person back then, always suppressing my feelings and thoughts to not piss off new friends, and so the worst I did was unleash my grammar Nazi and take a screenshot when I had an exceptionally good one. In this example, a Team Stark roleplay was interrupted by the summer break in character to try acting smarter than they actually were. Raven, you did grammar wrong, says the one who spelled grammar with an E. I don't have the shot of it, but the Raven and Crow that chat were glad I said what both of them were contemplating saying. Not my best by a long shot, but as I said, I wasn't quite the snappy asshole I am today. But you can see the seed was more or less planted there. I'm sure had other insults and rips here and there, but I couldn't find any of them. Back then, for the really juicy stuff, I had to get really mad. A quick example I won't show all of, god damn, you can really tell this was back in the Dark Ages for me, is one where this girl who was a part of this group of friends I was in pissed everyone off to the point that we ditched her, and so she tried pretending to not be herself, but a nosy older sister, who conveniently made all the same mistakes as the original. She tried this with one friend in the group, and then me the very next day. Unlike my friend, I eventually told her to shove this little act and fuck off, since I wasn't buying what she was selling, because I've seen this trick played already. Like I said, go on then, what about your sister? I knew someone who claimed to have that name, not saying her real name. Well, I'm just trying to help her. She's been trying to be a better person for something, I don't know what. She's not open to me anymore. Now, as I said, I was pretty frustrated when this was going down, so I didn't think to say this in my reply. But if her sister was supposedly not open to this girl anymore, then how does she know her sister's trying to be a better person? Or better yet, how does she have the phone and account of this sister that's not open to her anymore? Really wish I would have thought to say that at the time. Could have ended the conversation with her so much faster. Instead, the closest I said was, and let me guess here, you're using her phone on her profile on an app she likes, talking to her friends, in order to get an understanding of what's wrong with her. Seems like you're intruding on your sister's life then. Close, but in retrospect I could have and should have done better. Hindsight is 20/20. I'm no longer friends with anyone in this group, but before that happened, we all at least squashed the beef with this chick, and our final time talking was on much better terms. Next example is of me really ripping into some idiot from around the time when the fans started drawing arbitrary lines in the sand about what criticism is and what being a whiny shit is. They started this around the same time Unicorn of War made an abortion of a video on the subject. In this instance, I gave my 2 cents to someone by the name of Princess Grace, who I kid you not took this other person's obvious trolling at face value. RWBY sucks and I think everything is bad. My hat is tipped to this gentleman, especially since he said this before the shit really hit the fan in Volume 7. But as I said, the dear princess took this literally when even the creator of the post didn't. Please don't spread negativity. Don't worry, I was joking because the post is about criticism. The fact that they even had to spell it out ought to tell you all you need to know about this person. But now on to the only shot I managed to get out of my discussion with her. While constructive criticism is much better than vitriol and death threats just because there were less fights in the previous volumes, the other side of the spectrum will not go away, and complaining about other people complaining gets us nowhere. As you can see, I was trying to keep it civil since I was still slightly the person I used to be. And I kept my final bit pretty reasonable, but as you're gonna see, reasonable isn't a word in the princess's vocabulary, since she took everything I said and felt this was a sensible thing to say. Then we make sure those annoying people are out of the fan base. Again, I don't have the full conversation to show, nor do I even remember it all too well before this, but I decided that after this, she earned the gloves coming off and getting one of the earliest examples of my amino witticisms. Oh, what a genius idea. Censor people who have a differing opinion on the show and like to exercise their freedom of expression. Versus, oh, I don't know, maybe ignore said people and let them live in their bubble where they think complaining in all caps will actually influence the creators to make changes, let them get bored and eventually stop on their own terms. Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot logic is basically outlawed on the web these days. Aside from me towing the line on where I stand between fans and people who hate the show, you'd probably believe that I said that yesterday. It fits me so well. But no, this is me beginning to embrace my more savage sides back in 2018, and this realistically should have been the end of the conversation, since I exposed the shit logic and laid out a fairly sensible position on the issue of RWBY's criticism. But as you might have guessed, this wasn't the case, and Princess here wouldn't let a peasant like me get away with disagreeing with her. Now sadly I don't have the shot of it, and none of us can go get it, since this is on my original Amino account that's long gone, and even if it wasn't, the bitch blocked me after my response to what she said after this. However, shortly after I was done there, I went to my friend here and boasted about my sarcastic reply, in which you can see that Princess gave the earth-shattering response of, "Are you giving me sass?" I guess some can consider what I said to be sassy, but don't even try to pretend it wasn't on point. But I answered her question with, "Consider it a criticism of your statements." And instead of calling the Boston Ice Company for her help after that burn, she sent out one final reply and then blocked me over this, saying, "Bitching is not criticism." I gotta ask, where in this reply was I even bitching? I guess if you squint at it from an angle, the final part of logic being outlawed kinda, sorta, maybe looks like bitching, but even then not really. So yeah, I'd consider that one to be a victory for me in the end. 2018, I didn't have a whole lot that I feel comfortable showing or even have saved. Don't have any of my trolling of a certain girl that a former friend of mine went overboard on. Mostly because I wanted to scrub myself from that shit after it happened. And I didn't think to screen cap me putting my girlfriend at the time in her place when she overreacted and tried to claim I didn't listen to her text, as if that's physically possible, since I was having a really shitty day that day and just embraced the silence that came after it. So on to 2019 we go. By this point I'd gone through a very personal transformation, and the overly sappy shit stain I was had been chopped up and buried in the same pit as Rooster Teeth's ethics. And in a way, I may have gone a tad overboard on trying to instill it into the idiots I dealt with that I really didn't give a fuck what they had to say anymore. Case in point with one member of that group of friends I mentioned in the beginning, when they took a simple joke about a ship between her and another girl in the group that was purely a meme amongst the group, seriously. Not saying my first name there. That ship could have happened 2 years ago, but it didn't. 'Tis but a joke. Calm thou hits, titla. Dude, I'm saying I used to like not saying her first name, but I don't anymore, dumbass. Oh really? I hadn't noticed. Okay, I'm on my period. This never came up in the conversation before this, so 1, how would I have known? And 2, nobody needs to know when you bleed. If some dipshit like me and my words on the internet is getting to you in that moment, take the hint and ignore me till you're ready to roast me back or change the conversation. It's as simple as that. So I'm tired and pissed off because of it. So don't give me that sarcasm. Take a nappy. This was one of the last conversations I had with this chick, by the way. We ended on better terms than this, but she'd hate the personality I no longer keep down, so I won't be losing sleep over her hating my guts more than she already probably did. Next, I'm fairly certain this was after I met Prey, Kara, and the others in my newer crew, and one day when I was just browsing through the feeds looking for someone to talk some shit with, I come across good old Mario. Mario. God damn it.
Mario! Are you okay? Oh look, it's
Casual critic of the show.
Oh.
What are you doing?
Oh.
You just killed my turtle!
Oh my god!
I'm keeping it in. Fuck it. Anyway, I come across good old Mari here. Mari and me got some mileage in some of our comments to each other, as you're gonna see. So how about we dive into what I'm pretty sure was my first time dealing with her. Warning, what I'm about to read is surely about to make each and every one of you cringe to an honestly unhealthy degree. Either lock up the loaded firearms and sharp objects, or feel free to skip ahead by a minute. I'm saying this so that your surviving family members don't sue the shit out of me. I don't get enough sleep as it is. The hate on Blake is discomforting, especially because I feel like she's mentally ill-coded, or at least the arguments the haters... Fuck me for actually having to say that stupid word. The argument the haters use are reminiscent of what I've heard people say about me or other mentally ill people. She deserves no sympathy in her situation with Adam. Well, that's because she willingly ran away from him because she only started having an ethical issue with being a terrorist after she ran away from home to do the shit full time. Then had the audacity to be shocked that the terrorist leader who's camped outside the city he planned on attacking finds her in the same city that she voluntarily stuck around in order to attend that specific school. Sounds retarded enough to where sympathy's a hard sell. She complains too much. She does. She hears Yang spell out her life story and how she almost got herself killed by being careless in her specific search for someone. And instead of Blake taking the hint, she turns it into a discussion about how only she can do the search for Roman and the Fang. Sun doesn't even get a moment to ask what happened to the lesbian dinosaur before Blake's complaining about how she hopes her friends hate her for what she did. I could go on and on explaining more examples of her being a whiny little bitch, but that'd mean having to think about RWBY more, and well, I'd rather eat some rotten watermelon than do that, honestly. Her life is actually good. Why is she so down all the time? That's a good question, considering she's the daughter of the mayor of an island getaway with the equality she bitches about not having. She's well-fed, she's literate enough, supposedly. She even gets accepted into not one, but two Huntsman's Academies. And she has friends so brainless they accept her in spite of the burden she really is. Her life sounds pretty sweet to me. Those all reek of ableism. Funny way of spelling the word truth, but hey, maybe it's a foreign language thing. A side of misogyny. Why y'all still justify Adam over Blake is beyond me, but I have my theories. Okay, so there was this other moron who tried pulling the same shit like a month before Mari here. Don't have any screenshots of it, and she deleted it after all the backlash because unlike Mari, she has at least one brain cell working up top. But they essentially tried to say that because Cinder is such a hated character in the community, it absolutely has to be because those people hate women. They said this unironically in a community for a show starring an 80% female cast, where one of the most beloved characters that even people who aren't fans of the show know is well liked is the ice cream slut. I responded to that post too. Hence why I remember it so well, but I can't remember what I said. Aside from one of my final comments having something about the autistic fans lapping up Neo was justified since she at least had the cool fight and the cute factor, while Cinder didn't. And of course they ignored everything I said aside from me using the word autistic as an adjective, a thing I admit I did a lot more than I should have, in hindsight. And so they and one of her white knights both jumped down my throat about how hateful I was and how I should have left the Amino. Anywho, this mostly pointless story is over, but you can pretty much take the same general sentiment of what I said about how retarded it is to make the claim that RWBY fans and critics don't like women, and apply it to Mari's stupid-ass line here. And goddamn, that was painful to have to respond to. How about we get into the part you all came for where I rip this lack of logic a new asshole? One has to adore this logic. That because a female character is hated in droves, it must be misogyny, sexism, or what have you, over a fictional character that deserves no more defense than someone's snuff art on Rule 34. Yet the idea that that hate character is under the hate lens is often hated for reasons other than a vagina between her legs, like the fact that the writers behind said character have raped her original motivations and appeal with a cheese grater, is conveniently ignored, or the fact that her voice actor is mediocre at best and 2 steps above the first Resident Evil game's level of quality at worst. Nah, it can't be any of that at all. Couldn't possibly be the fact that she's now a useless element to the show, only coming along for Yang's tits instead of an actual role in the plot either. Nah fam, she's so overhated purely for being a woman and being a cat person. As you can see, I went all out on this one, since this was the second time I saw the same basic argument cropped up in the feed, by someone unironically thinking they were making any semblance of a good point. I put it all out there so that I could hopefully never have to see this bullshit again, and I'd say hit the point's pretty much dead center. And I'd say that on some subconscious level, Mari would have to agree, since her only reply to this behemoth of a message was, take a guess. Time's up. If you guess C, congratulations. You're right. Yo, don't use the word rape to describe rioting JFC. Now, I'll admit I had a sug moment in this after I was done, because my brain was a bit too exhausted to come up with spicier comebacks, so I just deflected that I could say whatever I please as long as I'm not threatening anyone or slandering them. Neither were the case, and she wasn't in the mood to criticize the content of what I said, only the way I said it. So I'll leave my replies up here for a sec for those who want to pause and read, but it didn't really have anything interesting until this near the end. Do what you please, but don't be surprised when people prefer not to interact with you. Practice what you preach. I'm doing it. You're the one choosing to bother me in the comments. I got bored. I realize it says get, but autocorrect is a bitch. And went for a discussion. Don't like it, don't acknowledge it. Then it's as if it's not even there. Just like with Princess, one would think this would be a good enough place to close off, but Mari just had to have the final word in, because she had no life or a brain telling her that the conversation was over from the looks of this. I, however, did, and I ignored her after this, I think. I can't remember. At least until this other jack-off came in, who I deleted all my screenshots of, unfortunately, which I'm sad over because some of theirs, they had a few good roasts in them. The only part I really remember is when they came to my profile after dealing with me in 2 other comment sections aside from the Mari one, where they came to the conclusion that I was an hater, and nothing was changing that. And they came to my profile specifically because my old bio started with the line, RWBY is a AAA product, American Anime Autism. Yeah, it's that bad. And somewhere in it was a joke, and I specify that now because this was as far as this kid got in their discussion with me on my wall. A joke about how I hate the show and the fandom to pieces. but I stay because I got friends in the Amino, and I'm too lazy to ask for their social media on other places to leave. I took this out of my final update because I was working on my video, and after that I was going to be gone, so the gag was over. But anywho, this kid came to my profile to debunk all the points I listed in my bio, because I guess they were bored. I told them to humor me and try, and they picked out that line first, and they were all like, "Getting social info from friends takes like 5 seconds." After I gave a quick insult about how they couldn't tell that was a joke, they stopped their little crusade to debunk all my points after just one failed attempt. Which is fine, I was busy not long after that moment, so it's not like I had a whole block of free time that I set aside to debate this child. Sadly, he deleted the comments on my wall that started all this and I couldn't get my roasts. And the initial screenshot of them starting their quest, well, I had it, but I deleted it in a fit of anger to get away from all things RWBY on my phone during my video making process. So that sucks, but oh well. However, one thing I've kept because this always makes me smile is one of my friends sharing this screenshot of them running to Mari of all people with this gem. "Hey buddy, just wanted to say that if you ever need to vent after a run-in with a hater, my PMs are open. Thank you, less than 3. That, or just fangirling/fanboying over Oscar and sharing cute art. After dealing with the likes of Big Country, you need someone to listen to you rant." I never thought there were people like me, just a little bit dark, we like it harder. Don't mind if the sky is gray, you know we even kinda never like it that way. On to the next one. Someone in the circle of chumps Prey and I starred shared this little image from what I assume is Tumblr. I don't know, I've never been on that shit site and I never will. And it has some juice to it that I responded to in that chat. It's baffling how queer characters can't even exist on screen and people will complain about the creators pandering towards LGBTQ people. But no one ever complains about straight characters pandering to straight people. Do I even have to get into explaining why this is? I think all I have to say is the word demographics and you can all piece together the sentence in your minds. So to save you all some time and brain cells, I'll skip over that. No one on the show ever made a fuss about Saffron being married to a woman. No one ever even brought up her sexuality. And nothing about the plot would have changed if Tara had been a man, yet people still complain about forced representation. Alright, the part I really responded to is coming up just after this, but first, the word you're looking for is forced diversity. As you said, nothing about Tara changes if she has a cock or not. So then why is she a woman? Because they wanted her to be just for the sake of having a pair of lesbos in a happy relationship? One that, as you admit, has no impact on anything? That's the textbook definition of forced diversity, which is a subject I'm not going to get into here. If you really want someone to break that down, I'd recommend looking up the re-uploads of Dishonored Wolf's forced diversity video. That was seriously his best video, and as you can imagine, covers the topic better than I just have with this given example. And now let's get into the final stretch of this stupidity. I'm not homophobic, but no, you are. You absolutely are. You don't want queer characters to exist on screen because you don't want us to exist in real life. Well, they got one part of that diarrhea of a sentence right. I don't want people like that to exist in real life. But it ain't because they're gay, no. I just don't want them to exist because they're so fucking stupid that Merriam-Webster is still debating on a new adjective to describe that level of stupid. I wish I would have saved the moment I said that in the chat, because it was just too damn good, and that whoever shared it would have sent that in my name. Because that would have been hilarious, even if all they did was hit the block button faster than you can say triggered snowflake. Alright, so this next one I admit I was poking the wasp's nest a bit, and in retrospect, I should have done this on Twitter. The salt would have been twice as good. Yang, I just realized something. Yes? I can't survive without you. Aw, is it because I'm your soulmate? Ha ha ha, no. It's because you're an organ donor. I forgot where exactly I got the inspiration for that one, but the idea popped in my mind and wound up just as perfect as I expected it to be. The comments were mostly memes or schizos taking it for more than the joke that it was, like this unself-aware fucktard who claimed it was unsettling. I don't even want to dive into the irony of him finding this meme unsettling. Those who know the story are probably cackling like hyenas. The next one isn't really a roast of sorts, but I just found these screenshots and thought I'd share them since they have the type of charm I like to keep with myself. This is how I met a friend that I gave a shout out to in my RWBY video, then unfortunately fell out of contact with since I left Amino altogether, but the nostalgia hit me and I gotta read these. Just out of curiosity, why'd you follow me? I found your bio interesting. That's so. Yep. Is there anything wrong with that? Nope. I just find it odd that two people follow and say my bio is interesting, an hour apart no less. Only to find those two people are talking on this wall here as well. I'm not sure if you're making a big deal out of this, but whatever. I'm just fucking around is all. Well, I hope you enjoyed fucking around on my wall. Hope the same for you, sweet cheeks. Aren't you delightful? If that's what you think, trust me, I have something else in mind. Mind saying it to my face in PM sometime? Gladly. Bring it, anytime, any place. I don't know, I just chuckle at how much we started on slightly hostile ground, with me initially thinking she and whoever else I referred to were setting me up for something, like a prank or something, and then her getting ready to verbally throw down with me for calling her sweet cheeks. By the way, hi. We settled things with a few rips and got on better terms after that, and she's a cool chick for sure. I don't know, I just thought this was fun and worth sharing. Unlike the next one, where we once again return to Mari, with the added bonus of it mostly being about stupid-ass politics. Yay. This time, she came to my comments and I posted it about why I don't demonize Jock Schnee, and I talked about all the scenes that reference and show him pre-Volume 6. There was some line about him being a political allegory so ham-fisted it steps into parody territory without the humor that makes parody work. I don't remember much else from my post, but let's get into the comments. Dude, Jacques has been there since the White trailer. He's been hinted as being exactly like that. Also, political? LOL, you sound like a Trump supporter. Oh wait, now that I recognize your nickname, yeah, you are. Damn guys, I've been figured out. Big Country. Such a well-known nickname for the MAGA crowd. Sure took someone long enough to say it, but I'm glad she found it out. But I'd imagine the reply I gave after this was a tad more than what she bargained for. I'd like to know where exactly he pops up in the White trailer, and how he's hinted as being more than what I've just described from the scenes I've talked about. Spoiler alert, I never get the answers here. The conversation about the character this whole post is about was dropped. And now on to the rest of my reply. And yes, give me one good reason not to suspect a known leftist company like the Cock with a Cavity wouldn't jump in on the Tuck Front crowd just to leech off their stupidity. A bit hyperbolic of a response, but brutally honest nonetheless. And I'll say it now since some may get the wrong impression from that if they forgot or missed the part where I said I went all out on the fuck off, leave me alone mentality. But no, I cringe at the thought of watching that dumbass in anything other than the memes. I truthfully like neither side of the stupid as fuck spectrum, and my votes have gone towards a dead gorilla the last 2 elections. I know none of you really care, and Mari here especially didn't care to think of this perspective before she started foaming at the mouth over my response. Unbelievable. Smiley face. America was never great to begin with. Seems you found you can't defeat my argument, so you resort to the playground slap fight method of attacking an ideology, one you only have your assumptions of me having, without any legitimate evidence. Glad to see which one of us has more maturity in this situation. I know better than to argue with you. I'll just laugh. I will too. This, just like before, is you saying the most absurd shit imaginable. RWBY was never created for the likes of you and the awful ideals you support. In any case, I'm sorry, but at the same time, I'm not. I love it when I get the morons I deal with so pissed off at me that they say shit like this that I just laugh uncontrollably over. I never responded to this because I couldn't get more than 6 words in before I'd be dying of laughter. However, in the same comment section there was yet another dipshit who thought they were making a sensible point. And well, at least he was willing to focus on the content of my argument for more than just one stupid line. I mean, at first at least. I don't feel like looking it up right now, but I read a post on, I think, Reddit. And as everyone knows, Reddit is where all the most intelligent journals of the world are posted online for our viewing pleasure. The fact that they unironically use this as the crux of their argument should go to show that we're dealing with a very special individual here. But let's continue. I read a post on, I think, Reddit that goes into detail about just how truly evil Jacques is. Precisely, what it's about is how Weiss shows signs or describes events that fall into every category of abuse except sexual, including mental, emotional, physical, and financial. Now, I'll never claim to be an expert in this field, and I'm more than a little hesitant to believe anyone in the RWBY community who talks on the subject of abuse. But, I'm gonna call bullshit on that. I'm sure Volume 7 and Volume 8 vindicated this, and if they did, whoop-de-doo. I haven't seen either, and I refuse to, even for whatever they retcon to make this bullshit true. But of those, physical and mental are the only types of abuse that one can even argue, and even then, we had nothing to really show she wasn't just making shit up, as women tend to do. But I'll be damned if you're about to say him cutting her allowance when she refuses to check in with him while she's in a foreign country counts as abuse in any sense. That's just common sense to not throw away your finite money into someone who won't even say a simple thank you. So no, Weiss the cartoon faggot doesn't have any signs of financial abuse, whatever the hell that might actually be. I did very carefully use the word evil, of course. Salem is essentially a personification of evil, and it's very clear she's the true villain of the show. But if you think about it a little bit, which you clearly didn't do, Other than her personal feud with Oz, the vast majority of humanity are nameless, ever-changing faces to her. She has little or no moral problems with the evil she commits, perhaps in part because she doesn't associate herself with humanity, but if you look at Jacques, he is committing atrocities.
I can't go home without selling these matches. Father will beat me. I'm so cold. Game, set, match.
I never dreamed you would learn to use the matches for your own purposes!
Granny's jewelry, right where she said she hid it. Have an egg for the road, you old dick.
And while not as atrocious as mass murder like Salem, they are still pretty high on the shit you do not want to do list. Stop right there. Let's recap what this person has brought to the table. He's now compared Jacques Schnee, a character whose worst crime in the show pre-Volume 7 was slapping a bitch after she made a big scene at a public event, and grounded her as punishment. What he did afterwards is irrelevant to this discussion, but at worst, a character who occasionally beat his kids is now being put on the same list as a demonic supervillain, who outright killed her own kids, mind you, who wants the world to burn because she's on her perma period. And while I do generally agree that anyone, be they fictional or not, under any circumstances, is a piece of shit who deserves a boot up their ass, I wouldn't exactly put them on the same tier of the shit list as pedophiles and mass murderers. That's retarded. Going by this galaxy brain logic, a teen who stole a few bucks from their grandma's purse that she could have used to refill her prescriptions before she checked into the hospital for the last time is on a whole other abhorrently evil level than a bank robber who got off with $50,000 and killed everyone on his way out purely so he could gamble it all away. I mean, they gotta be. There's that personal connection to the victim of the crime and everything. That automatically makes the latter comparatively less heinous. Get fucked. But just you wait, this goes even further downhill. But what, in my mind, makes him more truly evil than Salem is that not only does he have a personal connection to Weiss, the victim of his atrocities, she is his daughter, his own child, and I believe his attitude towards it is worse than Salem. Reminder, this was before Volume 7, so Jacques had all of 5 scenes in the show, in which the worst you can even apply to this discussion is his firm stance that calms as he explains the terms of Weiss's punishment after the slap. He's calm and collected, and puts his 17-year-old child in her place and reminds her she's not the adult she thinks she is, just yet. How this is worse than Salem, who yells at anyone even offering her subjects help on their road to recovery, is beyond me, but I'm sure you'll have something concrete to end this on that proves Jacques is comparatively worse than Jen Taylor's worst role ever. Salem is, in all likelihood, amoral, but Jacques doesn't not understand that he's in the wrong. He thinks he's right, and that he's doing better because of how he treats Weiss. And at the end of the day, is it more evil to inflict harm on countless faceless nobodies, or on your own child? Still sticking to this card that he's comparatively more evil just because of the personal relation to the one he antagonizes, I see. I'm not going to go over that one again and explain why it's retarded. Instead, let's just get into my response to this ridiculousness. Guess I've been thwarted by some Reddit post that's reaching more than you and the people this post has clearly triggered already. Poor me. Regardless of what abuse he has alluded to doing, he's doing it in the name of discipline, and at most, stress relief. And with a brat like Weiss, a good slap to the scar is just what she needs to wake up and see the shit show that lies ahead of her in life. Let's pause right here for a sec, because I need to put this part especially all over the screen, it seems. I'll admit this was in my somewhat overly edgy phase, and I could have worded this a lot better, because half of the first bit is a subtle rip at the stupid tell-don't-show philosophy of Ruby and Weiss and Blake's oh-so-troubled arcs. But you wouldn't know that because of the use of regardless before I state why he does what he's alluded to doing, and it comes off as a sort of defense. So I'll admit, I kind of fucked up in doing that. But the part that 3 people took away from this was the part where I bring up stress relief as a possible explanation. I find it funny that 3 people did this, because they're subtly admitting they're so forgetful, or that they omit the part, in the name of discipline, and at most, stress relief. Gotta love how they ignore me obviously offering an extreme that's so far from sensible and just run with the stress relief part out of context. But now with that out of the way, let's continue. Whether it's the huntress life she's adamant will be her lifestyle, or as the proper heir to Remnant's most vital organization, she can't not be broken in some way, shape, or form before she sets out on her own. Good and evil are merely points of subjective views, and Jacques toughening the pale skin of his daughter for the world will do far more good for her in the long run. These oh-so-bad atrocities committed to his daughter can all be boiled down to her lying to cover up the things she did to deserve them, if any. No use replying to this dude. Has a boner for Trump and calls anyone who disagrees with him a sheep, despite having no reading comprehension or analyzing skills on his own. Oh. On a completely different comment, she just can't help but jump in to demonize me over the stupidest shit. That's how bad I pissed her off with my trolling, and I love it. Also, please cite me one example of me calling someone who disagrees with me a sheep. I'm not throwing out the possibility. I've definitely said hyperbolic and mean shit to people in a debate because it's fun. But you know, it'd be nice if I could get just one example of me calling someone a sheep over bullshit like this. So anyways, our main guy does the sensible thing and ignores the drivel from the snowflake to address me one last time before he blocked me over this. See, but that's where you're wrong. The post took US penal code. Oh, we're still sticking to this random ass Reddit post that he hasn't even cited as a source for what he's saying. Great. Also love that this post, if it even exists, felt that bringing up United States laws and codes when analyzing a fictional animated setting was a sensible thing to do. Just some 450 IQ all around. The post took U.S. penal code and examined how Jacques treated Weiss. According to U.S. law, Jacques is guilty of child abuse and quite probably aggravated assault. Once again, I'll address the absurdity of bringing up U.S. law when discussing a fictional setting, no matter what the context is. But even if that wasn't ridiculous, the aggravated assault part would be outright wrong, since Weiss was canonically 17 when she got slapped. Again, I'm no law expert, but doesn't that automatically negate any assault charge since it's a parent doing it to their child? I'm going with my gut and saying yes, otherwise my parents would have been in jail a long time ago. Moreover, the fact that you are readily willing to say that it's perfectly okay to hit your child as a method of stress relief is extremely concerning to me. Never once said that it was perfectly okay, or even that it was okay to begin with. I simply offered a reason and left it at that. But nice straw man, bro. Discipline is obviously acceptable, but there are guidelines for what qualifies as excess, and by US law, Jacques did in face went too far. First off, that grammar at the end. Lovely. Secondly, I think guidelines on parenting can go fuck themselves when discussing a cartoon. Since you know, I live in the real world, but you know what? You do you and keep taking your fiction super seriously, schizo. But days after this ended, someone else eventually came, and Mari went at it in more political cringe that I don't feel like reading. So I'll just have these AI say it all, and I'll respond if I feel like there's something worth talking about. And I eventually did come back kinda pissed off, since what followed was mostly libel all because I disagreed with someone on some dumbass show. And well, I'm not really a fan of being lied about over stupid shit.
Making a big-ass assumption without a shred of evidence. Toxic as shit.
Dude, trust me, I know the guy. Notice that he hasn't even denied it.
Which brings up another point, using one's political beliefs like fuel for your toxicity. I, being a Mexican raised by my abuelita and father, takes a liking to Trump. Does that immediately make me a racist, sexist, misogynistic person? Apparently to you can only like the man if all you care for is the sometimes questionable things he says. Point is, stop being a hypocrite and cut your toxic shit out.
Dude, that's like if a Jewish person liked Hitler. But hey, you do you. If you really enjoy being walked all over by an authority that only wants what's worst for you, it's your problem.
Try it's all our problems. Literally every politician in office at any level wants only what's good for them and not the people they swindled into voting. Nothing's ever gonna change that.
Also, no, I'm not gonna respect you all. If you guys have freedom of opinions, I have freedom of finding you awful.
Nobody ever said you didn't. The gent above simply suggested that you cut the stupid shit. Unfortunately, that'd mean cutting all of it for you.
Because your political views affect the world we live in.
Ah yes, two random assholes on the internet with no voice beyond our friends. We most definitely affect the world on such a devastating level that we gotta worry about politics all the fucking time.
Enough with stop with the politics because everything in the world is politics.
No, it isn't.
Writing is political.
Only when the author intends for it to be political.
Art is political.
Only when the artist intends it.
This one post saying a father hitting his daughter on her scar, bonus point, for stress relief used as an actual excuse for this behavior, is political.
Number one, no, it's not political since it wasn't my intent. I was simply expressing a perspective often overlooked. 2, thanks so gosh darn much for taking the stress relief line out of context and running with it just because the other guy did. 3, you're looking way too deep into this, and at the time, I was living rent-free in your head because of this. Fresh air is awesome every once in a while, you know.
It's not just political when y'all don't like it and complain about it.
Right, the very fact that you compared Hitler during Nazi Germany to Trump, specifically me liking him, is disgusting. This conversation is done.
Don't come cry to me when history repeats itself and you guys were too dumb to realize it. Shame we will all suffer because of your stupidity.
My lord, you sure are right. I've never seen the ignorance of this fortitude, Keep that toxicity to yourself.
Block me if you want.
Never blocked someone before, ain't gonna start now.
I was in the same boat as this guy in that I never blocked anyone before this, but after seeing just how pathetic this was getting and how I knew this would go further than RWBY if I didn't cut this shit at the roots, I said this final block of text expressing just how done I was with this shit, and then I blocked her ass. We live in an age where arguments that step into political territory result in people going on a manhunt that leads to personal info being leaked and ordinary people losing their jobs over stupid shit on the internet, and I was in no mood for that. You know the guy? I've talked to you maybe 3 other times, and in none of them have I given a shred of evidence to assume my political stances. You literally only label me as a Trump supporter because I brought him up and said nothing in the ways of I like him in the slightest. But that didn't stop your bitch ass from spreading libel in another comment here and in your discussion with this fine gentleman. I didn't deny it because it was clear that nothing I added was going to get through your thick skull and listen to someone who doesn't see the world as black and white as you obviously do. But who cares about these facts, am I right? And wait for you and the full bringing up law in this discussion to take my words out of context. The statement went as follows. I'm not reading that shit again. I've already explained why it's stupid that I've had this conversation with 3 other people since posting it. And in case you're wondering, the third person was Prey in a chat, and no, I don't have the screenshot of it. But after he brought it up, that was just the final straw, and I was just done. Get fucked with your trashing of someone purely for their beliefs in a show, a political action, or anything of the sort. SJW retards cry and complain about wanting unity and equality, yet will not do anything but tar and feather those who oppose them. So yeah, I was fed up with not just her bullshit, but the bullshit of the times when I put all that down. Could I have worded some shit better? Obviously, but I just wanted to get that out one last time and put the pin in this shit for good. Jesus fuck, that was a lot of cringe to get through. If you made it this far into the video and survived that bullshit, have this as a bone, while I go scrub my mouth after having to torture you all with that. So some rando made a post about RT's many problems coming forth in 2019 as the company was dissolving at a pretty quick rate. Weeks later, our special guest in this found it and decided this was the final straw for them. Here's what they had to say and what I had to say as a result once I decided they were easy enough prey. I seriously hate that the point of I can't go anywhere to escape this toxicity and criticisms to a show I love cannot be escaped in an app that is meant for fans to just fangirl and just enjoy stuff they like. Congratulations on ruining this app for me. Glad to know you hate something you voluntarily clicked on so much. More like it showed up on my feed, and it isn't the first post I see of this type of thing. So this 26-day-old post just happened to show up on your feed? For those who are unaware, that's not how Amino works. So, yeah. At that point, you would have seen a lot worse than this, princess. And again, you voluntarily clicked on said criticism post when the title alone would be enough information to tell you it ain't something for a stan to read. But sure, keep pretending it's everyone else's fault. Okay, but even ridiculing this choice, how does it make my points invalid? What points? All I see are complaints about the show being criticized on a place designated for talk about the show, and that people that do so add to the criticism the show deserves. In the spirit of not sounding like a broken record, welcome to the internet, a place composed of information in a database you attribute to yourself, and of a certain extent of control over, such as the type of things you see. Bit of a word salad on my end, but it was late at night and they asked me to debunk imaginary points, so I didn't give a fuck when I wrote most of that. And well, it seems to have given our dear guest the inspiration for a new tirade. Interesting. A point of criticism can't take criticism. I'm not even gonna question how they got that, but hey, they're just something interesting, aren't they, these fantards? More like the one making weak complaints against a critic can't see that their shit stinks too. But tell yourself whatever you want, princess, and pretend it's someone else's fault for you reading things you wouldn't like. Or I'm just a fun trying to enjoy something on a site that's designed for fans of the show, and you come here to see people like you saying their shit stinks too. God damn, I've seen Xbox Live messages with better grammar than this. But just wait, it gets worse. I also would like to point out how petty it is coming to a fan site and voluntarily complaining about a show. So it's petty to come to a place where fans come to talk about the show when I want to talk about the show too? Sweet. Then, I don't know, making a review blog or a YouTube video? At least people like Vexed have the decency to differentiate what is an appropriate place for their criticisms rather than going to a fucking fan site to do it. No, I say yours does when you complain about seeing things you wouldn't like and hide behind the shield of saying, this is a place for fans. Newsflash, it's an extension of the internet is what it really is. And people on the internet, like real life, have their differing opinions and stances. You can either try starting a slap fight with them by complaining about their views not aligning with yours, or you can stick to yours, Listen, shrug it off if you don't like it, and move on, like a normal human being. Big difference there, princess, and I say what I want here because I have the constitutional right to say whatever I please, until I'm threatening someone or slandering them. Would hardly call it petty to be voicing your own opinions on views to find similarly thinking people, but I forget, I'm too old to understand the youth of today, and I should wilt and die as just another star that dared to shine in a different direction. Again, a little word salady, fuck you, that's a word. But hey, they wanted to get more personal and raw with me over this bullshit, so I gave them exactly what they wanted. And apparently I did it so good they had to resort to moving the goalpost on me and pulling a whole new tangent out of their ass about me. How predictable. Wow, you really need to learn both words irony and hypocrite, because you are doing exactly the same thing. By keeping up with the show I once adored and shit-talking it to hopefully inspire the changes I want to see in order to see it as the better show and community it can be. Maybe if you squint at it from the sides, then maybe you could call me a hypocrite in other situations, which is what this fruitcake is now bringing up since they're so piss-poor at actually debunking a decent point. Just hiding behind these critics. You mean the critics I never once brought up? Funny how I'm able to hide while also not hiding at all, ain't it? Just hiding behind these critics is a means of justifying your petty hate on a fan site. Hell, you even use the phrase illiterate troglodytes to describe the fandom, because it's the truth. You've done an excellent job of showing it, which I'm pretty sure is not allowed. You're just a sad person filled with hate, and wants to unleash it and spread it to those just trying to enjoy something. Well, Dave Chappelle once said,
"If you have hate in your heart, let it out."
So I don't see a problem either way. Anywho, let's get into my reply, which unfortunately made the whole conversation an even bigger train wreck than it was to begin with. Ah yes, because daring to express my unfiltered views on a show I once liked enough to join the community for is the same as hiding behind a shield of saying don't like it, don't watch it. And by the way, had a leader come to me about my profile and the bio is A-OK to them. So yeah, that phrase is allowed in the context I used. And yes, I am just a sad, hateful person that you voluntarily interacted with. You're welcome. As you can see, everything about me being on the same platform as them was just pissing them off. And I reveled in that free rent in their heads, hoping they'd take the hint, but unfortunately, RWBY fans are notoriously bad at dealing with trolls. Well, I mean, that's exactly the same excuse as you telling me, don't like it, don't click on it. I didn't address this well enough in my reply to this one, so I'll do it now. In the wording, and only in the wording of those two phrases, would you even have a sliver of a point. Telling someone not to watch a show if they don't like it is one thing. Telling someone to stop bitching about the shit they voluntarily click on despite reading 3 warning signs about what it is they're about to read, it's not even comparable. If you can't figure out the reasons why without me spelling it out to you, you just might be a new level of retarded. And yeah, you may have liked the show at one point, but you don't anymore and continue to build your amino around that. You are literally the opposite of a fan. You are someone who actively goes out of his way to insult and belittle a show to any extent you can. Some interesting POV changes in that last sentence, but you gotta love how based off just my abrasive personality and me not siding with their putrid thoughts on this situation, I'm instantly nothing but someone looking for any reason to hate the show and community. I'd love it if I could pick at their mind and see if it's as interesting as this tirade makes it look, but I already know there's nothing really to pick at. Yeah, because it actually makes sense in my usage. You come on, read 3 signs that something isn't something for a stan like yourself to read, and more for the people conscious about the issues behind the scenes, and still complain about reading it by the end. Some people express emotions differently. If I truly didn't want RWBY to pull itself off its ass and be an objectively better show, I would have been gone already, princess. Think before you speak and think before you open your wallet. Those are my 2 main lessons in life I like to preach. Take it or leave it. Wow, it's truly amazing what ignorance can do to a man with so much hate. Legit told you that you said the same thing and now you're over here like, oh, it's different for me because I'm right. No, that isn't how it works. You said something to the lines of that, but for your defense in your first part of your argument, now you tried using that bullshit excuse to justify me being a crazed fan. And when I pointed out it's fucking different, that's called hypocrisy, friend. That made fuck all sense, typical of RWBY-loving retards. So after that, I went back through the replies to see where this train wreck was going, and where I could take this to hopefully shut them up sooner. And well, this is the best my tired fucking brain could come up with. Interesting. I've gone back through this little conversation of ours and found that in pointing out how you're offended by something you voluntarily clicked on, and you've defended by asking to debunk your other points that were never made, only for you to project me as the ass I know I am, only thinking I don't know how to handle criticism levied my way, and have now turned the pointing finger to me in my mere existence. All because I hold a stance you disagree with, and are again offended by that which you put in front of yourself, only you project it onto me as the hypocrite, by the mere fact of me expressing my thoughts on a show. I have remained consistent in my points, and have merely pointed out the holes in your arguments that change on a dime, depending on what I say next. But sure, let's agree that I'm the bad guy in this situation by virtue of existing and saying what I do on this site. I may agree, but I won't apologize for having the spine to stand by what I say and think. Yeah, just admitting your faults don't make you a better person, just make you more self-aware to the asshole person that you are. I don't care if you want to criticize, but again, this isn't the site that is appropriate for it. There are a variety of ways to criticize a show that don't have to come from insulting it on its own fan app. But you yourself will ignore everything just to keep spewing this hatred to everyone. I have respect for people like Vexed Viewer. I don't have respect for you. Goddamn, how am I ever gonna function without her respect? Never once said I wanted to improve as an asshole. And as previously stated, I'll do it wherever I damn well please, since it's my right to do so. And if you have such a problem with that, then I strongly recommend consulting your doctor on how to operate your thumbs over this little X icon that makes anything I have to say magically disappear. Glad to know I occupied a portion of your time you will never get back with my voice. Well, in doing so, just as you choose to do what you want, I will continue to do what I want. And if that's about to complain about people like you looking for any way to spread your hatred, then so be it. But don't act like you have a choice and I don't, because that's some hypocrisy that you spew out of that perpetual garbage hole you call a mouth. Wrong hole, but whatever. Never said that either of us were immune to criticism from our actions either. You do what you want, and if I feel like throwing my shitty opinions in and vice versa, it'll amount to nothing in the end, princess. And that was the end of it. I never spoke to her again, and I thank fuck. That was mostly a fun one, and I think it makes up for the shit we had to deal with before this. And that about wraps me up on this video. I have way more in the bag, and way better than what I showed here today, so stay tuned for part 2 if you enjoyed this. It'll encompass way more than Amino, but I figured it'd be better to show these in mostly chronological order. I'm not setting any light goal for this or anything, because I hate leaving business unfinished. I just have no idea when I'll get back to this, but until then I'll talk to y'all later. Calling me strange gives me confidence, 'cause I take it as a compliment. Maybe I'll change my evil ways, stop taking shots one of these days. I'll settle down, I'll rearrange. Maybe I'll learn from my mistakes, stop breaking hearts, forgetting names. I'll settle down and act my age one of these days, but not today.